Baseball history is littered with spectacular flameouts and broken dreams. Some pitchers fade gradually into obscurity, others crash and burn overnight. But perhaps no young, powerful arm has ever fallen apart as completely as Bobby Miller. The towering right-hander appeared destined for stardom after his dominant 2023 rookie campaign with the Los Angeles Dodgers, during which he posted a solid 3.76 ERA with 119 strikeouts and 124 innings across 22 starts, with, at times, 4+ pitches. Yet, by the end of 2024, Miller had transformed from future ace to league-worst starter with a terrible 8.52 ERA. In 2025, that's when the Dodgers were forced to make a decision that would have been unthinkable during Miller's rookie year. Rock bottom had been hit. But what led us here? Bobby grew up in McHenry, Illinois, as a huge prospect, eventually reaching 6'5" by his senior year. At McHenry West Campus High School, he posted a 5-2 record with a 1.98 ERA and 76 strikeouts in 55 innings as a junior. His senior year was even more dominant, as he pitched to a microscopic 0.80 ERA, this time punching out 96 hitters while walking just 6 in 52 innings. The Baltimore Orioles took notice, selecting him in the 38th round of the 2017 draft. But Miller had bigger plans, deciding to opt for college instead. It wasn't just the stats that had caught scouts' attention. Miller had something he can't teach, a smooth delivery that allowed him to not only throw triple digits, but to make it look easy. At the University of Louisville, Miller's path continued upward. As a freshman in 2018, he immediately made an impact with a 6-1 record and 2.97 ERA over 17 games, earning freshman All-American honors and spots on the American Athletic Conference third team and all-freshman team. That summer, he played for the prestigious Brewster Whitecaps in the Cape Cod Baseball League, a proving ground for future major leaguers. In his sophomore year, Miller went 7-1 with a 3.83 ERA. Then that summer brought him even greater recognition when he was selected for USA Baseball's top college team, one of the most elite groups in amateur baseball. Miller's junior season in 2020 was cut short by COVID-19, but not before he went 2-0 with a 2.31 ERA over 4 starts, striking out 34 batters in just over 23 innings. The Dodgers had seen enough to select Miller 29th overall in the 2020 MLB draft. This time, he was ready to turn pro, with even more polished pitchability. In the minor leagues, Miller moved through the system like a man among boys. By 2022, scouts were running out of good things to say. He was ranked as a top 25 prospect in all of baseball entering 2023. He was also the top pitching prospect in the Dodgers system. Now that's saying something for a team known for developing great pitchers. Scouts loved his 4-pitch mix. His fastball hit the upper 90s consistently and could still touch 100 when he needed it to go along with the sharp slider, fading changeup, and diving curveball, all of which flashed plus at times. But what really caught everyone's attention was how easy it all looked. Even when Miller was throwing 98 miles per hour, his delivery looked smooth and repeatable. There was no violence, no red flags that came with his raw mechanics. The Dodgers viewed him as a cornerstone piece for their future rotation, and they had every reason to believe so. Miller exploded onto the scene on May 23, 2023, immediately establishing himself among baseball's elite young arms with his debut against the Atlanta Braves. He pitched 5 innings of 1-run ball, striking out 5 and earning the win in an 8-1 Dodgers victory. But again, numbers don't do justice to just how dominant he looked. His very first pitch in the majors clocked over 100 miles per hour, and 9 of his first 19 pitches hit triple digits. The Braves lineup, one of the most feared in baseball, looked completely overmatched. After allowing a run in the first inning, the young right-hander had also made small but important adjustments by mixing in his secondary pitches more, and that was all she wrote for Atlanta. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts heaped understandable praise on him after that debut. He was really impressive. He showed a lot of poise, noting how Miller managed his emotions while maintaining a decided edge. Even the opposing manager, Brian Snitker, took notice. An arm like Bobby Miller's is what it takes. Good stuff, and we just couldn't get a hold of him. That's a good-looking young pitcher right there. He's got a really bright future. That strong debut was no fluke. Miller went on to have a very solid rookie campaign, becoming a fixture on a Dodgers team that was postseason bound, seemingly from opening day. But it wasn't just his rock-solid consistency that impressed. It was how Miller seemed to rise to big moments. Against San Diego in August, Miller pitched 6 scoreless innings in a crucial divisional matchup. His overall season included an 11-4 record, with that 3.76 ERA and nearly 9 Ks per 9 across 22 starts. That record also made him the first American-born Dodger rookie starter with double-digit wins since Tim Belcher in 1988. But perhaps most importantly, Miller was beginning to understand which pitches made him most effective. By September 2023, he was confident about the order of his offerings, noting that while his slider and changeup had potential to be dominant, his curveball had become his best secondary offering at the time. It's hard to argue with my curveball being my best pitch, Miller said that fall while being asked about his development. Everyone who watched even a cursory amount of MLB seemed to predict Miller as a future rotation anchor. The expectations weren't just high. They were through the roof, and that's when the pressure really began to mount. If 2023 was Miller's rise to stardom, 2024 became what one beat writer called the sophomore slump to end all sophomore slumps. But here's the truly bizarre part. He actually started 2024 even better than the season before. In the Dodgers' second game of the year, Miller took the mound against St. Louis and was absolutely electric. 6 innings, no runs, with 11 strikeouts. He was hitting 100 miles per hour consistently, his slider was untouchable, and Cardinals hitters looked downright helpless. That performance, justifiably, had baseball people talking about Miller as a potential Cy Young candidate. The stuff was just that good, and the command was that precise. Everything that made him successful as a rookie seemed to be amplified. For one glorious afternoon, everything had come together in a way it never had before. Unfortunately, that would be his last good start of the season. In his very next appearance at Wrigley in early April, the wheels completely fell off. He couldn't escape the second inning, needing 58 pitches to record just 4 outs while surrendering 5 runs to the Cubs. His fastball command was gone, his breaking stuff was hanging over the plate, and Cubs hitters were making him look like a batting practice pitcher. Something was clearly wrong, and Miller struggled again in his next start against the Twins. Shortly thereafter, the Dodgers placed him on the injured list with right shoulder inflammation. That issue sidelined him for about 10 weeks, a lengthy absence that interrupted any chance of rediscovering his early season rhythm. But here's where things get really depressing. During his rehab stint in the minors, Miller was getting absolutely shelled. Over 4 rehab starts split between Single A and Triple A, he posted a 7.80 ERA in 15 innings. Even more alarming, he walked 8 batters while only striking out 10. Manager Dave Roberts tried to stay optimistic at the time, downplaying the ugly rehab numbers and suggesting Miller would refocus once he got back in a big league environment. Unfortunately, the troubles only deepened upon his return. When Miller came back in June 2024, any hopes of a quick turnaround were destroyed immediately. His first start back came at Coors Field in Denver, which, in retrospect, was a bit of a head-scratcher of a decision. 5 runs allowed in 6 innings. His next outing? Far worse. Facing the struggling White Sox, a team that was on pace for the worst season in modern baseball history, Miller couldn't make it out of the second inning. He labored through 60 pitches while getting knocked around by hitters who were struggling against everyone else in baseball. If you couldn't get 2024 White Sox hitters out, you had serious problems, and Miller did indeed have those in bunches. Outings like these became, sadly, quite routine. He would start games, get into immediate trouble, labor through every frame, and then get pulled after 3 or 4 innings max. The Dodgers kept hoping he'd find his rookie form, but it never came. The absolute rock bottom arrived on July 8th, 2024, against Philadelphia. Miller was rocked for 9 earned runs in only 4 innings. 9 runs in 4 innings. You can't get much worse than that. Here's how bad Miller had become. Batters were hitting over 300 and slugging .571 against him. That's borderline MVP level numbers. Basically, versus his pitches, every hitter was Yordan Alvarez. His fastball, once his calling card, became a downright liability. In 2023, opponents hit .258 and slugged .367 off of Miller's fastball. Basically league average production, and that's not counting how well it set up his breaking stuff. In 2024, opponents hit a whopping .327 and slugged .634 off the heater. And it's not like any of his off-speed pitches were doing much better either. Here's how bad it got. Among all MLB pitchers who threw at least 50 innings in 2024, Miller had the league's worst ERA at 8.52 and its worst FIP at 6.97. He wasn't just bad, he was statistically the worst pitcher in baseball. His numbers were so poor that he actually cost his team nearly 2 wins as compared to a replacement level pitcher you could grab from AAA, per B-WAR, a swing of nearly 4 from his first year mark of 2.0. Finally, the Dodgers had enough. In mid-July, despite desperately needing pitching, they optioned Miller back to AAA to let him regroup and work on his issues. There would be a couple of brief flashes. He even managed one decent outing against Baltimore in late August. But more often than not, every time the Dodgers gave him another chance, Miller faltered. The final straw came in September against Miami. With the team trying to secure a playoff spot, Bobby was given one last chance to redeem himself against the lowly Marlins. He lasted just 2 innings, giving up 4 runs on 7 hits while laboring through 65 pitches to record 6 outs. The Marlins were one of the worst offensive teams in baseball, but they crushed Bobby like he was a position player throwing in a 12-2 game. The next day, September 18th, 2024, the Dodgers sent Miller back to AAA for good, effectively shutting him down for the rest of the season. They didn't even consider him for their postseason roster, opting instead for bullpen games rather than risking another Miller start, and it worked, en route to a World Series ring. A ring that probably felt a bit hollow for a player that actively hurt his team's chances of winning it. Hoping that 2024 was just a nightmare fluke prompted largely by injuries, both the Dodgers and Bobby looked at 2025 as a fresh start. Sadly, this wasn't to be. Miller didn't break camp in the starting rotation, but when the Dodgers needed arms early on due to injuries, they called him up for a spot start. On April 16th, a little over 1 year after his dominant 11 strikeout gem against St. Louis, he took the mound against Colorado. This time, it was in Dodger Stadium. The results were sickeningly familiar. 3 innings pitched and 6 runs given up, including a 5-run third inning capped off with a grand slam on a hanging curveball. Though Miller struck out 7 batters with his undeniably powerful raw stuff, it didn't matter. Once again, he couldn't stop innings from spiraling out of hand. He was pulled after having blown the 7-1 lead the Dodgers offense had given him against the worst team in baseball. Though LA went on to win 8-7, the righty himself admitted after the game that he too was disappointed in his performance, looking dejected while answering questions and saying, quote, "I know I'm a lot better than what I showed today. This would be Bobby's only start in 2025. He made one other brief MLB appearance in relief, but the results weren't much better. In total this season, he appeared in just 2 games, pitching 5 innings and giving up 7 earned runs. That's a 12.60 ERA. But even these small sample size struggles weren't as concerning as what he was doing down in AAA, which is to say, struggling badly again. He posted a 5.58 ERA with a bloated 1.64 whip in 69 innings. He struck out just 57 batters while walking 49. Sure, the run environment is high down there, but not enough to make up for these kind of results. A nearly 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio? That's downright ludicrous at any level. By midsummer 2025, the Dodgers made a decision that would have been unthinkable 2 years prior. They announced Miller was going to be converted to a relief pitcher. Dave Roberts explained the thinking behind the move. "I think that this might be something that unlocks him. Going hard for a shorter period of time to get some confidence for him, which could help us here." The team that once viewed him as a future ace had all but given up on him as a starter, at least for the time being, but they weren't giving up on his talent yet. So, how does a pitcher go from future Cy Young candidate to the worst in baseball? And in just 1 year. Everyone's been trying to figure this out, obviously, but I do think there are some key factors. The shoulder injury that sidelined Miller in early 2024 was the start, but what happened next was the real disaster. To protect his arm, the Dodgers tried to make some mechanical tweaks when he returned. They moved his position on the pitching rubber. They altered parts of his delivery to reduce stress on his shoulder, and it seemingly blew up in their faces. Bobby had pretty much zero command with his new mechanics. Miller's fastball in 2024 was either wildly missing the strike zone or catching far too much of the plate. The raw velocity was still there, sure. He continued to average near 98 miles per hour and could still touch 100, but without anything approximating decent control. MLB hitters began teeing off on the pitch. Miller's walk rate spiked to over 5 per 9 innings because he frequently fell behind in counts, which not only gave birth to all those free passes, but many times also resulted in him having to groove heaters later, which partially explains why his fastball numbers were so bad. Dave Roberts said that Miller needed to, quote, "learn how to handle hitters and innings to go deeper into games," but that's never quite happened. Instead, we often saw him laboring, throwing 20+ pitches in any given frame. The longer an inning grew, the more his confidence seemed to waver, leading to nibbling at the edges or unraveling with big misses over the plate. All these factors contributed to wild inconsistency. His once nearly unhittable curve became hittable. His opponents batted .357 against this pitch type last season. The movement profile wasn't all that different, but he was again missing in similar ways as with his fastball, and the same was largely observed with his other 2 off-speed pitches as well. Most nights he operated as a 2-pitch pitcher, just his fastball and whatever other pitch he could at least semi-locate. This obviously made him predictable and easier to hit, as he himself said. But perhaps the most telling insight came from Miller himself in mid-2024. "It's hard. I'm going through it right now, to say the least." The mental toll was becoming obvious. Every start carried the weight of previous failures, and the still 26-year-old often pitched like he was walking on eggshells. That was a far cry from the confident, aggressive rookie who attacked hitters in 2023. Teammates and coaches noted he was putting in the work and doing his best to keep a good attitude, but the bad results kept piling up, creating a vicious cycle. Being yo-yoed back and forth between AAA and the majors likely only added to this pressure. Everyone seems to agree that Miller's downfall was a perfect storm. Injuries led to lost command, which created a crisis of confidence. The changes that were then made to his delivery that were supposed to prevent injury and fix these issues instead further messed up his effectiveness. His main weapons went from overpowering to batting practice, and he just hasn't been able to adjust. Bobby Miller's journey from budding star to struggling pitcher has been astonishing in its speed and severity. In 2023, he was a 24-year-old phenom firing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs and putting up numbers that screamed future ace. Fast forward 2 seasons, and he's been demoted to AAA relief work, trying to rebuild his career from scratch with poor results in the process. Miller's mindset entering 2025 shows both sides of the dichotomy he's more than likely still operating with, caught between worrying and fighting. It was obviously a rough year, but I saw what I was able to do as a rookie, so that's the bright side. Another bright side is it can't get much worse than what it was last year. Unfortunately, you could probably say the same thing about this season as it comes to a close. At 26, time is still on Miller's side. The Dodgers' experiment to convert him into a reliever could represent a new chapter, as perhaps simplifying his role will allow his natural talent to play up again, or maybe he'll crash and burn, leaving behind one of the bigger what-if stories in modern MLB history. Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.